You have to be very specific.
You know, you try to optimize that because you know what's going to kick your ass and what isn't.
All huddled around this thing, and they're all so excited about it.
Shows are back. They just did a show in Florida somewhere, Florida, I don't know, Expo or something. This last weekend, and Can Jam New York City is happening this weekend, tomorrow. In fact, I guess when you're watching this video.
Mm-hmm.
And on that note, by the way, we should talk about Can Jam. We as a team are not going to be at the Can Jam, but our goodies will be there. We'll have our headphones there. We're considered a partner with Woo Audio's room, so our stuff's in with Woo Audio's room, and Mike and Jack there will be taking care of our goods, which they know them very well. You know, so you want to stop there, and I think there'll probably be some other. Our headphones may be in other places there. Justin from Headamp has our headphones, so the Headamp booth will have them. Who knows? You'll know it when you see them, right?
Probably.
Our headphones will be around, but the Woo Audio rooms are what's considered a part of our display, and those guys have it down. So sorry we're not going to see everyone this year, but we will catch you. I think there's a show coming up in Chicago, a Can Jam in Chicago, which I didn't even think about. I just noticed it the other day.
Are we doing that?
I don't know. Yeah, but we should. But anyway, we're going to shoot for that. So we're going to try so that way we can finally see everybody. I think it's in May or something like that. Anyway, speaking about shows, let's talk about shows since everyone's doing shows. What do we hear at shows? Like, what the hell impresses us at a show when we do it? You know, and you think about our methodology at a show. We're basically working, so we might get a half hour to walk around and hit a floor of rooms or something like that.
Yeah,
and that's pretty much it.
I guess that's the biggest thing is you have to be very specific at what you're like, okay, I want to see this and this. That's all I got time for.
Yeah, you really got to target.
So you can't just like peruse.
Yeah.
Usually you're working before the show, and you're almost guaranteed to be working for hours after the show. So there is no time. Typically, it's very little time other than middle of the day, maybe if you have someone else that could manage the table while you're away or the room. But it is a fair question. What do we see at a show and we go, wow, that really did it for me. That's impressive. That's interesting. Because, of course, we have a different perspective than the average consumer. And I guess you could say we've seen it all, right?
Yeah. I mean, we've done, especially like me, I've been doing shows for 30 years. So it's like, it's a show. You know, it's another show.
Uphill both ways. Yeah. So it's kind of a bit of that. There's no doubt. Because generally when things come out that are new, that everybody's all hyped about, I've seen enough of them that I know it's probably going to be less exciting than people are saying. But still, there are times where I'm excited to see it. I'm excited to try it. And I guess it's a difficult thing to define. When am I excited?
Yeah, you wouldn't know it till you see it.
That's right.
Yeah, and it could be anything. It doesn't have to be a headphone.
No, it
or
could be
a
anything.
Speaker. Yeah. It could be anything. You know, like, oh, that's cool. You know, I mean,
sometimes people have cool booths.
Yeah.
They have nice little demos and stuff like that.
Setups.
True. It's like, it's a nice setup.
Or the way they decorated the room.
Right.
You walk in and go, a nice job in here.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You know, you got draperies all
It
the
really
way
does
around.
it for you.
Nice lighting.
Yeah.
Because you know the effort that goes into that kind of thing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. First of all, you got to ship all that stuff there usually or rent it. And then you got to set it up and make it look good. That's the hardest part, you know. And, and you're doing all that while you're hooking all the gear up and getting that ready to go and making sure it works before the next day when the show starts.
When you just got off a plane, you're like, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Yeah, depending on how far away you had to fly. Munich's like that. Munich's rough because you go there.
Land, it's in the morning.
You were up all night basically. You got 2-3 hours flying to Germany from the U.S. And I'm sure Asia's just as bad coming from Asia to Munich. It's about the same. But some people come from Asia to the U.S. for shows, and I'm like, man, how do you even survive that? It's like a 24-hour ordeal, you know, with airport time and stuff like that. Usually they come from anywhere in Asia to the States. And it's like, because you got there's no direct flights, you know, you're going through like, who knows, twice, maybe 2 connectings flights at least. And those people, I feel sorry for them. I mean, but they manage. I mean, I don't know how well they manage, but they kind of look like they're awake the next day.
Well,
sometimes.
You know? I remember, I was 2017 LA Can Jam I went. And yeah, Michael from 11 Audio was there.
Oh,
And yeah, so he had that problem. And
From
yeah,
Taiwan
he was
or
he was
China-
yeah,
from
he was
Taiwan?
just struggling to stay awake. He
Yeah.
was like, you know.
yeah. You're like a freaking zombie.
Yeah. It's like you probably need to get some sleep.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it takes like a good 24-hour period, a day or so to well, that's not only that, his internal clock is completely backwards. So, but yeah, I mean, but so yeah, that's impressive in the show to see people that can handle that.
Yeah, well, he
Think
was
about
pretty
it.
used to it because I mean he did it a lot,
Yeah.
and you could still tell. Yeah, he definitely was.
I
hit
guess
by
it just depends on like, when your flight out, when you leave, what time of day, what flight you can get. You try to optimize that because you know what's going to kick your ass and what isn't.
Somewhat unrelated, but I did find it quite interesting on the handful of occasions that I spent time with a larger group of people after the show, and we're talking like well after the show. It's surprising how often these people are very different people at the show than they are after the show,
Yeah.
which I always thought was strange because I'm not any different.
Yeah, we pretty much are the same no
Right.
matter what.
But it turns out some people, they're actually like salesy, I guess.
Oh.
And after the show, they're not. I always thought that was a
They
little
like
curious.
lose the French accent when they go
French accent. Well, I don't know about that. No,
or whatever. The German accent, it could be any accent,
it's not quite what I was going for,
I
but
gotcha.
sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I
But
agree.
in terms of like products and stuff like that, usually what I look for in a product is something that's unique or novel, interesting. And this is more from like a technical perspective. So I'm looking more at how it's manufactured, the manufacturability, the design, and things like that, the materials used. And it's very uncommon to see something that's actually done differently. Usually things are pretty much done the same. And maybe it looks a little different, it's styled different, but it's the same methodology, the same production method, same fabrication. And you could see how this product was derived from a prior product. So it really isn't so much a radical new concept as a minor evolution.
Yeah, there's a lot of black boxes in the world, and to a lot of people, to us, they kind of all look the same. They
Yeah.
have different connectors and maybe they have different remotes, but it's a black box.
I always look at the hows and the whys.
Yeah.
Why is this thing made like that? How is it made like that?
Yeah. And that's
Why does it
true.
look
I
like
mean, when
that?
you see someone that has, particularly if they have really nice industrial design with some of the gear, like, I think it's Metaxas makes these really cool reel-to-reels. You see these things? They're like 80 grand or something.
Yeah.
Completely made from scratch, machined out of aluminum, different colors, and wild-looking reel-to-reels,
So it's like an art piece and an audio
Yeah,
piece.
I mean, really cool looking. You can't help but appreciate something like that, because it takes the typical black box to a whole different level. When you see the art side of it added.
Yeah,
into
I
it.
guess it's mainly the stuff you normally don't see, like those giant horn systems and stuff. That's like,
Yeah.
wow, look at that. How did they even fit this in this room?
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
anything that's extreme, I
Right.
guess,
Yeah.
is interesting
Not
because
just molding the horns.
Yeah, well,
I guess it's just kind of interesting to see that this product exists and maybe there's actually a market for it. Because that's not really as obvious as people would think. Somebody making like an $80,000 speaker or whatever, it isn't just like a walk in the park. It's a big ordeal. So to see somebody actually marketing it and to see the interest in it, to see what other people are thinking about the product, talking about it and stuff, I find that a little interesting just to see whether or not there is a demand for something that crazy.
Yeah, on my side, like when I walk in a room, usually it's an audio show, so you're listening. First thing you do is hear what's playing, and for me to walk in a room and like have something wow me, whatever is playing at the time, is extremely rare. It would be like if it did would catch my attention, I'd probably be there for at least a few minutes. Where normally I'll pop my head in,
Right.
and go, oh, this ain't nothing I want to hear, and I'll walk out. It's that quick of an assessment because I've done this so many times. It's unfair because maybe they were playing a customer request at the time of blah blah blah. But
That's true.
so I always give them a second chance, third chance. It's not like I'm judging anything, but I'm like, ain't what I want to sit down and listen to.
we got limited time.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm trying to find that gem to see what's going on. And usually when you do, you'll know, I know the guys anyway. I know the company. I know the sales guy. I know somebody there because I've been doing it for so long. So, usually it's kind of the same companies tend to be the ones that have the best sound, right? It's usually,
yeah.
they just know how to do it all around.
Well,
set up.
the truth is usually you don't stumble on good sound. It's very uncommon.
Yeah.
Usually you have to know what you're doing. And especially at a trade show, to get good sound with speakers, it's not easy. So usually you see the same people doing it over and over.
Yeah.
And I guess that is something that I find a little funny because at a bigger show where time is especially limited, like Munich, there's a lot of rooms. So for me to actually go around and see them all takes a long time.
And they're spread out.
Yeah, so you got to be very, very selective if you actually are exhibiting at that show. You got to be selective over where you spend your time. So most of the time, I spend literally 5 to 15 seconds at most in a room. And a lot of rooms you could just walk by and you could get a general impression within 1 or 2 seconds oftentimes. If you see enough rooms, usually it's pretty straightforward.
You get good at it. You
Yeah.
know?
Well, I mean, it comes back to experience again. It's like, well, I've heard their stuff and I liked it before, so this new thing, they probably didn't make it worse, right? So
Yeah.
maybe I want to hear what they're doing.
Yeah, it's very rare to make something worse if you're an established brand and company.
But really, I guess the most surprising thing to me is how oftentimes things are not exceptional and people like them. There's products that I see nothing unique in, and people, for whatever reason, like it. I always thought that was curious. You see
Yeah.
people all huddled around this thing, and they're all so excited about it. And a lot of times you can figure out a reason, and it's the aesthetics or the price, not the performance.
It's usually price.
But high price actually
I know.
makes people think it's good.
Yeah, people, you
sometimes.
walk into a room and you know that there's a sign somewhere. These speakers are $250,000.
Yeah.
Usually you get a lot of oohs and ahs just because the speakers are $250,000. And they think because of that price point that you know, that's nice. And it is. It is. I mean, the guys that made those speakers selling them for $250,000 think it's nice.
Yeah.
And they're selling it. If they make them, somebody must be buying them.
You would imagine.
So there are people that think that's nice. And I guess that's the thing. I mean, it's kind of like cars. It's like everything, you know, when you think about it, we've talked about this before where, you know, there's not just one car that makes everybody happy. Not possible.
It's very difficult.
You know, and that goes for a lot of shit, you know, shirts, clothing, food, you name it.
Right.
It's the same with audio. You know, people have different tastes. You know, they really do. And they come from different backgrounds, different experiences. So I get that, you know. I suppose, like, if you worked in a horn factory your whole life and all you heard was car horns going off all day, I think you'd want a system, if you even had a system when you got home.
That didn't sound like
That
a car
didn't sound
horn.
like a car, exactly. You'd be
Yeah.
avoiding that resonant like the plague.
Right.
You know, just don't even get near me with a horn sound. So you could see where people can come from. You know,
You think just testing horns all day in horn factories?
Yes.
yeah, it would definitely bias
Every
you.
horn off the line, 100% QC,
In like just the open, you don't have like a little box to put it in.
30-second
Yeah.
duration.
Well, or maybe you're like in a Tesla plant, and every car, that last QC is someone hits the button on to
They
see if the
lay on
horn
the
works,
horn. Yep,
and you just
it's
happen to be
working.
on the line right there. You know? Yeah, I mean, someone's got to test that, right? They got to blow
I
the horn.
suppose, yeah.
I mean, that's the only way to know.
What a job.
Yeah, what a job that is. Yeah. So anyway, I don't know. What about you with shows like you?
Yeah, what do you look at? You go, wow,
what do
that's impressive.
Yeah,
or
what
something.
do you think you're looking for? I don't think you mentioned it.
Nothing in particular, usually.
Mm.
It's just like,
Very
I'd
clear.
have to be like, well, the only thing I'd really be interested in is like something I'd be interested in actually buying, you know? It's like, I'd like to hear it for at least a brief demo to see if it's like something I might be interested in.
Right.
But that's pretty unusual too, though.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, we don't change up stuff in our systems
Yeah.
too often.
That is a pretty big thing, though.
Well, yeah.
What will we actually buy? That's like a different thing.
Well, the only thing that I was thinking of, like, particularly in the headphone thing, is we're always looking for new gear that would mesh up well with our headphones.
yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and the headphones
Really
space,
nice
they're
gear.
just trying
Nice.
stuff that you think might work,
Yeah.
and you're just confirming it works well.
Yeah. So on that note, I mean, it's kind of that's tough too, because we're extremely particular with the gear that we really like with our stuff.
Yeah.
You
But
know?
you do got to go try it. That's what it comes down
So
to.
every once in a while, you're grabbing. You got 2 minutes.
Yeah. It's like, all right, I need one of these
There's a
headphones.
break in action. You take one of your headphones, you go over to someone else's booth, and you plug in and go, okay, see how it sounds, you know?
Yeah.
Because we're looking for perspective things to recommend that we like, that we've actually tried. And I mean, if we actually like it, we usually get it in house. We'll get it for a long-term session, so we really understand it.
Yeah.
How interfaces.
Yeah, I mean, you can't tell on a show.
Yeah, no. It's like, can you send me one of those? Sure, you know, we'll play with it.
But
So
it goes very much beyond just the sound of the thing. You got to get the touchy-feelies in there, too. It has to look appropriate. It has to be the right dimensions. It has to be easy enough to use, have a volume control that works, and switches that are obvious and things like that.
Yeah.
It's hard to recommend things when they're difficult to use.
And
or
reliability is
it's
important to
weird,
us too,
right.
because we've been through things that aren't, and it's just you don't want to recommend that to somebody when
they're going to have a problem.
50% of the time it doesn't work out the box or something. That's just a bad scene. So we're usually looking at manufacturers that are established too.
Unfortunately, yeah, that's a reality. Some of this stuff is just not stellar reliability.
Nobody makes a perfect device out the gate. It's very rare. It's very rare. I mean, especially we're talking complicated things like electronics. Unless you have a background in it. I mean, there's craziest things like the foam inserts and the packaging and how it handles UPS abuses or not any shipping abuses.
Issue.
Especially now, everyone's just so much stuff. They're just throwing packages around.
Yeah, and you just you don't really know until you do it really what. I've seen bigger capacitors just rip
That's
off.
what I was thinking.
Yeah, it's common,
traces off of boards. People go, Jesus. You wouldn't think that would happen, but the sheer mass of a part pulls itself apart when someone drops the box.
And then on top of that, you need to consider if that happens and the customer gets it and they don't notice there's a part rattling in it, what happens when they plug their headphone in? Does it blow the headphone up?
Yeah, what's the failure
modes?
modes?
How does it handle it?
Yeah, and that's the other thing too, is what are the failure modes? Does this thing handle plugging things in and out at full volume like some people do?
Yeah, some people do that.
We think we did a video on etiquette, didn't we? I don't know if we did.
It was a while ago.
We should probably reinvestigate that one. But there's certain things that you follow, that rules you follow, and it's the same with a show. There's rules, and most people know it. But every once in a while, you'll see people that don't. Some guys you'll see when they swap a headphone at our booth, they'll turn the volume down.
Yeah,
they know.
most people.
And some people, they just don't care. They're just plugging things in. It's like, well, that's not a good thing, because how do you know? You could blow a headphone up. You could. There's things you got to know. So, but yeah, that's always nice to see, though. It is nice to see the majority of people. I think they're considerate at shows, and that's something to mention too. Since people are doing shows now, be considerate of the guys working there. Be considerate of other people. And most people are, but
most people are very considerate.
The guys in headphones are great. They really are. But be considerate. Just understand that everyone's got to have their 5 minutes. Everyone. But other than that, people enjoy the shows. Enjoy getting back to reality and normality, and have fun with it. If you got any questions when you hear our stuff at these shows, email us or watch our videos, because we talk about all kinds of crazy shit. Thumbs us up, please. Take care of yourselves.